We're here today with Rich. Rich is going to tell us a little bit about what he does for here at Paradise and go over some of the materials that we use on the job site. Rich?
Hello, how you doing? I'm Rich. I take care of the production here at Paradise. First layer we go down with is everything is high velocity hurricane zone. Up here in Palm Beach County, you are allowed to go directed deck. Again, Paradise doesn't do that because it's a better system. When you have a nailable system, we stay everything with the high velocity hurricane zone, which is actually the highest standard in the United States as a building standard. So that's the system we always use. We start with a 30-pound mechanically fastened. That again helps maintain the structure of another peel and stick product. After that, we use what's a secondary water barrier, which goes over the felt before the shingles. That is part of the system that gives an unlimited wind warranty on the GAF products. So this product right here is another peel and stick. It comes right off, sticks to the felt. It also is a modified bitumen. When the nails go through this for the shingle, it self-seals around them. And like I said, that's how GAF is able to give a high velocity hurricane zone unlimited wind warranty. Not very many products can do that. All of our stacks over here, we use all lead stacks. We don't use any plastic or rubber. So the lead will last as long as the roof will. People that use the rubber, unfortunately that product will degrade over time. So again, we're using the highest end product we have. This is actually a PG 500. It's a roof cement. It's unlike the roof cement you can get anywhere else. This is actually specifically designed to use with these products. And the reason it's designed to work with these products is it has a much longer life than a lot of other sealants that could be used with it. At our seams, we use membrane right here, and the membrane gives this cement strength so it doesn't flex and crack. So the roof is entirely renailed with a ring shank nail, which is virtually impossible to pull back out, and it's nailed to exceed code in the high velocity hurricane zone.
We're going to take a walk around the roof and take a look at the damages that are on the roof.
Okay, we'll start back with the flat roof. We start right here. We can actually feel structural damage. We have alligating. Obviously, this roof needs to be repaired. This roof has been leaking because it's been sealed right here at the shingles. Now, the problem with this right here is shingles are a watershed system, so they're designed to actually get water behind them and it gets out. Now, the way this is repaired, because of a leak, it'll actually hold the water and actually shorten the life of the roof. All right, so right here we have some cracked shingles. They've been re-cemented, but you can see the mineral surface on them has been cracked and is aged and has been repaired and glued down. That's typical of wind damage, but like I said, we can see there's been a significant repair in here. And once roofs start getting repaired, unless it's a short term, generally over the long term, it means your roof is getting near the edge of its life. If you come over here, you can see some more mineral surface damage. And once a roof starts losing its mineral surface, the roof is pretty well past its lifetime. Shingles aren't typically asphalt anymore. There are a whole bunch of different products in there, up to and including fiberglass matting. However, the mineral surface protects the product underneath. The mineral surface actually doesn't serve a purpose except for reflectivity and to protect the product underneath. So when we start to lose our granules, the life is over for the roof. Up here on the ridge, you can see we have wind damage, we have lifting, and you start to see like that one just went in there. But you can see there's debris under this, and so the roof, like that one, has been compromised already. Now this part of the roof is pretty important for a couple reasons. Again, wind damage, debris we've talked about under there. So the roof is compromised. But right here what you're seeing is the blue-green algae. And the product we use, GAF HDZ Timberline, has a 25-year warranty against the blue-green algae. The reason that becomes important is we discussed the reflectivity of the roof. And when you lose reflectivity to the roof, it shortens the life of the roof, as well as looking unsightly. This is a turbine. We do not use them. The reason we don't use these is they are a liability in a windstorm. You see this one actually wasn't spinning, so what can happen is the water gets in the roof here. We have a problem with the seal, and you're going to be fighting that seal forever. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to remove that. We're going to replace a piece of plywood 2 foot by 4 foot and redeck that, and we're going to go to a ridge vent up on the top of the roof, which is, we get further along the roof, we'll go ahead and show you what a ridge vent looks like. But basically we put a 2-inch slot in the roof, and that allows the roof to breathe and get passive air movement through it. Some of it looks like it's been actually hit by a hailstorm.
Where do you see those spots?
There's a couple of them right here. They're just big spalls. So this roof, you know, with the wind damage and the debris, it's been through a good storm. And then over here, we have the vent stack, and it's in a valley, which isn't a good place for it. But this one in particular is actually installed in properly according to Florida standards, that it sits over the shingle. The shingle should be over it and be cemented down to it, because it's part of a high velocity hurricane zone. So what we're doing is we're trying to make it so nothing can grab the roof, and if this penetration can be breached, the roof goes with it.
So Rich, tell us a little about the discolorization that we can see between the top of these shingles and where it starts to meet that flat roof.
Okay, well, you actually have a few different discolorations going on. This discoloration right here, you can, this is where there was a patch. So somebody's changed these shingles before, and it looks like it's been a recurring problem. You can see the roof's actually moving below my weight, and right in here too. So the roof has been compromised at least a couple times. The actual bleed you see here is just from the metal runoff. So how they make shingles algae proof is they actually blend metal, zinc and coppers into them. And so what you're seeing is where the metal is touched, and it picks up a little bit of the zinc and it washes the roof. So this is what would happen in the case of a GAF shingle, except it would be for 25 years and not start to look like this. See where it happens on the left? So what they actually do is they actually put the chunks in the granules to keep the roof clean and extend the life of the shingle.
Now coming in, looking at home here, you can see the granular loss on the front of the home. Here, tell us about that, Rich.
But this is mostly age and exposure. We're facing pretty close to due west here, and the western sun is very hard on a shingle, just like it makes your house hot when it's on the windows. That's why we don't use 2-layer roof systems. Like people will might talk to you about them and say you can go over the system. What we're trying to do with the ventilation system, as well as our shingles, is we want to keep the shingles cooler. That's why the GAF have some reflectivity to them to help prolong the life of the roof, because this is just the shingles getting too hot, besides the wind damage, and as that happens, we have granular loss and shortness of life in the roof.
All right, very good, Rich. Anything else that you see on this roof that homeowners should know to look for?
Well, besides you see the wind damage, that's very difficult for a roof, because if you get another windstorm, see how I'm not doing anything to lift those up? If you get another windstorm, it will take those roofs because the roof is compromised. So a good enough storm, unfortunately, the roof will be compromised and will have water intrusion into the home. And as well, like I said, their shingles are a watershed system, so as long as the water's coming down them, they work great. They're not designed to have water blown up them. So once we have this ability to do that, the fasteners are exposed, and in this case, the water, you see where it stops, the water doesn't have that far to go. It only has an inch to go once that's ripped up, and it's in the house.
Needless to say, this roof needs replaced, a repair wouldn't do. So that's what we're going to be doing today, is we're going to be replacing this roof with the GAF Timberline HDZ Shingles that have a 50-year warranty on them.
This is our renailing the deck. This is what we talked about, where we're bringing it up to code that's not nailed enough to Florida standards. So he's using the ring shank nails we spoke of, and those ring shank nails will be holding the deck down. And then adjacent right behind him is making sure all the nails are down smooth with the deck and nothing is sticking up that might go through the roof.
All right, Rich, now we're on to the dry-in part of the roof. Tell us a little bit about that.
All right, first what we do is we put a 30-pound felt down before we put down our secondary water barrier. Now what's different about what we do is once you get north of Broward County, you're not required to use 30-pound felt if you use the peel and stick, which we use.
Right.
However, for our products, because we have the unlimited warranty, we use the 30-pound felt, we use the peel and stick, and that also is the standard used down in the velocity hurricane zone.
Okay, Rich, tell us about the drip edge we're going to install.
All right, what we're going to be doing is we're going to put a drip edge on. What this does is it comes, the roof lays over top of it. What it does is the water can come down and it kicks it out. So what water will do is, if it can come back and it'll wick up, so the drip edge actually holds the water away from the building.
So different people talk about different inches that they use for a drip edge. What do we use and why?
Well, we use a 3-inch face. The face is the part you'd see. The top side always matches it, but the face, we like a taller face, get it further away from the roof. And the smaller it is, the more likely it is to get back to your roof. Actually, if we look at the old 1x2 drip edge that was here, you can see what happens when you have a 2x2 drip edge is that the water was able to come and wick back up into it and actually rot the 1x2 And that 1x2 is about to go on, and it goes like this. And the reason for that is just to hold it further away from the fascia.
Typically, what do average roofing companies install as a drip edge?
Most companies like 2x2. It's a little less expensive, but it doesn't perform as well.
And I've even heard some companies say they use a 6-inch drip edge. What would they do that for?
Well, if they're using a 6-inch drip edge, that would be, they're either referencing 3x3 before it's bent, or they're trying to get down to cover something. All right, this is a actual 4x5 angle flash, and what this does is it's going to separate this roof from the fascia, so it'll allow the shingles to sit on top of it and the paper to sit underneath of it, with the peel and stick over it, so it'll keep the water from getting into this roof.
Go ahead and demonstrate what we're using the wood on the drip edge for.
All right, the 1x2 actually, so as the drip edge comes out, this actually holds the drip edge away from whatever is here. So if your roof is up here, which it is, would be right here, this is just made to keep it away from walls, away from the fascia, whatever is below it. Otherwise, it would be back to it, and when the water comes down, it's able to get back in there and behind it. And it actually wicks up into it. Yeah. And this stops that from happening.
All right, Rich, tell us about the next step in our process.
All right, what we've done is we've actually started the secondary water barrier. And what this does is this is an integral part of the unlimited wind warranty. It also helps with the insurance get a discount. So when we're doing a roof, we actually document that this is being put down. So the idea of a secondary water barrier is if a high windstorm actually does take the shingles off of the roof, underneath of the shingles is an absolute watertight barrier. Unlike felt, which has nails all in it, and tin tags, it doesn't self-seal. So what'll happen is, if it was off, water could still get in the house, and as well, it could rip and get to the plywood. And once it's on the plywood, it gets in. So the idea of the secondary water barrier is it's self-sealing. So when you shoot a nail in, it seals around the nail. And if we lose shingles, we're not really that concerned about it. Not that we want to lose them.
So like we saw earlier on the previous roofing system where it lost its adhesive over the years, where it would lift. If a rainstorm would have happened then, lift the shingles off, they didn't have that underwater barrier, so this would have helped in that case. And now with the new shingles that are going to be, it has that extra strong adhesive, but for any case it would ever lift, this is there to help protect it.
Correct.
Now we're installing the Timberline HDZ shingles. Rich, go ahead and explain a little bit about these shingles.
Well, first off, we're going to talk about the 6-nail system. Though they are a 6-nail system, it's actually 12 nails that goes into each shingle. Because as one shingle goes over the other, you'll see the next one where the line actually lays right there on top of that other shingle. So they have double the amount of shingles than a lot of people think. But of course we maintain high velocity hurricane zone, and we go with a 6-nail system. That way we have 12 nails instead of what is allowed in most areas, which is only 4 shingles, so you have 8. So we have 50% more nails holding this down. So what you see is they're starting right here, they're starting to go across away from the valley, and they're covering over their starter strip. And what they're going to be doing is breaking up the shingles and giving themselves space to work, but setting them up. And when they do it, what they're doing is they're lining each shingle above each one, so they actually maintain a nice straight line across the roof.
Now the nailing zone on these shingles, they've increased to be 600% larger than it was previously. Before it was just a little line that you had to nail exactly in across. So this helps us install these shingles much faster and much more accurately, correct?
Yes, it also, because of the strength of the shingle, it's actually the bottom half of the shingle, if you look at it, it's decorative. So you want to be, this is the meat of the shingle that does the protection. So that's why it has all the nails in it. And the bigger line gives them better room to make sure they're nailing both spots on the shingles more accurately.
Now this shingle also has the DuraGrip adhesive. And what this does is it attaches to the shingle below it to create a bond between the two shingles, correct?
Yes, it'll also grab onto the StainGuard 200.
And this adhesive is 7 times stronger than any competitor. They actually did a wind speed test on it with 150-mile-an-hour winds without any nails, and none of the shingles came off.
And it stayed on. That was impressive.
Anything else about the DuraGrip that you want to talk about, Rich?
It's just what makes it stand out, like you said, the 150 miles an hour wind with no nails. The 6 nails, as they go on this one, when the next shingle comes over it, it's going to get its nails into it, so you can see where they're catching a strip below it. And so the nails, these are designed not to rip, where a lot of shingles you can just grab them and rip it right up. You can't pull these up because of what's in the shingles to hold them. And you can see right here, all the products is all Metro Data approved. We don't use Florida Building Code approved shingles. So everything we use, every part of this system is high velocity hurricane zone, and we put that on anywhere we work.
As we were looking at earlier on the roof, on the previous roofing system, you could see that the shingles were lifting. With the DuraGrip, that's going to prevent that from happening. Isn't that correct?
Yes, and this roof will have an unlimited wind speed warranty.
Anything else about the Timberline HDZ shingle?
Well, it has the 25-year algae guarantee on it, so it won't get the black, blue, or green algae on it, so the shingles will stay clean, where if you see the roof right next door, you can see it's already starting to get dirty, and it looks like a fairly new roof. It's not extremely old, so it keeps your roof clean, which helps reflectivity on the roof as well.
So all of these reasons is why GAF's Timberline HDZ shingle is the #1 selling shingle in America, correct?
Yes, it is. It's also the largest company in the United. It's an American-owned company, and they're the largest shingle company in the United States.
They're even family-owned and operated, and they've been in business since 1886. Isn't that correct?
That is correct, and it's a long time for a very good product, and that's why they've been around and had the longevity they have.
Our installers love them. We love them. Best shingles you can put on your roof, correct?
Yes, sir.
We're on the front of the house. We're preparing to lay down the shingles. We're starting out with the Pro Start starter strip from GAF. Rich, tell us a little bit about the starter strip.
The starter strip has an adhesive edge right here. It is one of the components of the Golden Pledge warranty. Also, the back of the shingle has its adhesive on there. What we're going to do is we'll actually start over there in a minute, but the shingle lays over the starter strip, and once these warm up, these two adhesive will come together, and this shingle is not going to lift. Then they'll put in their 6 nails accordingly.
So in the case of a high-speed wind event, the starter strip is kind of your first line of defense.
Right. What that does is it keeps the shingles from being able to lift up. So once the shingles are above each other and they're able to lift up, if they can lift up, once one goes, they'll actually ripple up the roof. So what this does is stop the edge. It's the strongest point of the roof to keep the roof from pulling back up.
So we're not them lined up. We always cut half off our starter. 13 stick nails. Right out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then for the top part, I always put one up here just to help the wind. Everything's offset. I like to keep my flush end in. So I'll take and I'll match my shingle. I'll cut my 6 inches off. Another thing about these shingles is we have a wider nailing flange, so we always want to be hitting the doubles there. So we're gonna nail underneath. We're gonna tar underneath these. Shoot high. We want to at least get down to that. So we're gonna come down. We're gonna start at 124 on the top. Okay. So now what we're gonna do. One in there. All the way down to our end. We want to make sure our 124 fits the whole way. So we're going to have 124 be there. Okay, Tyler, chalk line.
You install shingle from the eaves up. Rich is going to tell us a little bit about what we're installing here.
Is he's setting the row, because what he's concerned with right at this minute is he's worried about this first row. This whole row is going to go across the roof, and so what he's setting right now is so this line will go straight through. So he's making an adjustment because these shingles don't always work out to be full shingles. So what he's doing is making it so each one has an equal part, so they all look the same and line up on the roof as he's ready to start building up the eave and into his valley.
We gotta have our 6 inches. We always want to keep our factory where we're gonna butt into a shingle, you know. Okay, got this one. This one on. In these areas, you don't really want to rush things. So we'll put this one upside down so we can get into factory. We want to get underneath this. Always need to be wherever that valley comes over, you have to be underneath it. So we're going to go under this one too. Find out where this one goes. We're going to slice up again. Just the top layer. We're going to go under this one, all the way to the wall. Find out where our cut's going to be.
We started our shingle installation portion of this project. Tell us a little bit about the shingle installation process.
The reason we start at the bottom and go to the top is shingles are watershed, whereas a flat roof is designed to let the water be there. Watershed, the water has to run down. That's part of why the valley's like the way it is. But if you look at the back of the shingle, there's tabs. So the idea is if a driving rain pushes water under the shingle, even if it pushes so far that it can get back behind this, well, then it hits our secondary water barrier and can run out. Also, if the water gets driven under here, the adhesive is set so it can actually weep back out. And so the system can't be sealed. So if you took a roof system like this and put a silicone over it, the roof can't breathe and the system will fail very quickly.
Got it. So you always want to install your shingles from the bottom to the top for the best watershed system.
Correct.
Now this one, since we have this coming in, dormers, anything that takes a least amount of water comes in first. So this one's gonna come in first. So what do we need first? We need a starter. One starter. So we want to come all the way through with this one. One more starter. So because we don't want our shingles to match up. And I'm gonna come up this valley to match up our shingles. Or to get this valley done. We don't ever want that line matching with this line, you know that. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna come through with this one. This one's gonna come in. So never nail these until you find out where you want your thing at. Because sometimes, depending on where that valley metal ends up, is where you want your cut to be. So this one is actually gonna be weaved in. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna come under like that. Oh, remember, this always has to go past the valley. So we're gonna come over, cheat it. If that's too close to the thing. Come up the valley to keep it straight. You always go 2 feet, okay? So that one's gonna take another starter, so I won't nail it. You just do it when you get there. You gotta put another starter on it. If you do at least 2 rows, you stay straight going up the valley. We'll start off that and come over. And each one of ours will nail. So we'll start this one halfway on this one, and then we'll get our distance the whole way. Now we know that's way past. We can go 6. And don't follow your ice and water, because that'll mislead you. Nothing ever in the valley. You always want to stay at least a hook blade away. On whatever side the blade is, you want to stay about that far away from each side. This you never nail fasting, because you don't want to pound nails down. And you don't want to make any holes that you don't have to. That's one thing I learned. Water finds a way.
Now we're installing the lower valley part of the roof. Rich, tell us about what we're doing here.
All right, what you see right now, they're setting the valley. They've set the lower roof first. The reason we set the lower roof first is shingles are a watershed system. So if the lower roof is on top, the water will go underneath and we'll have a leak for sure. So this first part they're doing is these shingles are going to come across the big roof and they're going to lay on top. They're going to put cement down and then they're going to cut the shingles to match this line. And that'll keep the watershed system. So as the water runs off the shingles, it'll run down the valley.
If by chance it backs up, it has all this to go to come back through. But we also do the tar system in there. Another reason we put this side in first is if you see where the valley is, you see where the peak is, only this much water can go down this valley before it would start to go under. You see where this is, and you see where this peak is, that much water will go down. So if we had this much water going down and we put it the other way, it would have the force to come up under these ones higher. This doesn't have much to hit the valley, so that's why we do it that way too. Takes a little longer, but I like to do a double chalk if I'm not running a flip shingle up, just so we have it straight. What we did on our first one is we weaved it in because where the valley came through, it would end up, we wouldn't have anything except for a shingle under. This one will be cut. So we weave that one. This is waterproof chalk, or orange chalk. It'll go away in the water, so that's why we use it. Another thing, if you're running into a valley, say we ran our valley into like this all the way through, and then we cut it off, what we have is what's called a dog ear, and this is a tip here. When the water came through, it would catch that tip. Now the water would follow that over, find a nail hole that wasn't done or whatever, and find a leak. So instead of cutting them off, we just run ours till this middle hits. Now what we're cutting off is just our beauty piece. So automatically when the water comes in, our dog ear's way over here. So that water is going to stay on there and come straight down. So we don't have to eliminate, we can eliminate the cutting. Now this one, you can separate in on these levels and it'll be end up right on this floor. I do 5 in this code 6. I do 5 here and 1 up, just in case the wind comes in. So you still have your 6 nails in your shingles. And these ones I do not go fast. You can see if you put your ice and water and stuff on straight off the bottom, you got a couple different lines you can go off of to keep your row straight. It's just nice when you're cruising trying to get done. We don't want to lose our 6-inch here because that's code. So if by chance we have to come into the valley more, if it wasn't a perfect cut on the plywood or whatnot, if we end up getting in where this dog ear's in there, then we'll lift it up and nip off the dog ear. But we never want to lose this because that's a code by the shingles and the sticking. Now this next one will end up being a dog ear, so I'll be able to show you why we cut that off, so you don't end up with the water leak. This one you're gonna put down. And that's when you don't want to pull it. Plug in another hole. It's a hammer. It's a caulk. It might be a piece of metal under there. It could be hitting a nail on the valley. Whatever. Put caulk on it. Hammer. If we have to pull one, we always put caulk on it. Because that is where it'll come. Now we're to the top. Now we're going to do another chalk line. What I was showing earlier, if you're right-handed and you're doing cut where you want to turn around, otherwise what it'll do is it'll give you a hook. So you want to cut from the top down. And I was showing these guys earlier, I'll use the scrap shingle and I'll put it underneath just so we don't get no penetration or anything in the valley itself. Leave it out a little bit in case you wing it. Back to our double. Let that down. Put this guy down a little bit. And then even if we go through, we end up having this thing protected. So even if we cut through, we still got this shit. And the reason we cut for right-handed is because our hook blade automatically hooks in. So if we were to cut one the other way, now we have it like this. If we were to cut one the other way, it would be out. Because that's the way the hook blade's in. Onto that one too. These are areas you never want to rush it. Once these valleys are tarred, you don't even want to step in them really anymore. So once I get mine cut, I just take a shingle, kind of like a sandpaper block, and I'll run it down the edge, and that'll smooth out my edge. So it just looks a little nicer. All right, Tyler, we're gonna get tore. Remember how we had our dog ears? So we're gonna check each of these and make sure the point don't go in. Want to stay a couple inches away from the point. So we'll cut those off. Any one of them that are out. So what happens if you don't is that water will come down this valley. Like I said, it'll catch that point and follow it over. We don't want that. Now our tar. Start from the bottom. I do 2 layers of tar on mine. If I'm doing my valleys this way. So what we're gonna do, we got our line there. We're gonna make sure this always connects, and it can be a thin bead. It doesn't need to be a lot. And we have this one weaved in, so once it gets to there, it doesn't matter. So we're gonna go ahead and set that down. Get my tar.
Now we're touring the valley. Rich, explain why we're doing that.
Well, it's getting done for 2 reasons. It's helping to hold the shingles down, but it's also helping maintain, keeping the water from backing up in the roof. But in a high velocity hurricane zone, required to have this because it's another adhesive on the roof to see how they have it peeled back. It makes it so after that dries, it won't be peeled back like
you
that.
Can set them down, and you never want to, don't lift them up too high. Now once we have that continuous line, that'll keep the water out. And then this process is G shingle. Now this can just be a tad. You can use the wet dried caulk, whatever you want on it too. I just do a little bit. Now this will hold the shingles for when the wind comes. So you have a 2-piece system. You do that all the way up. That'll stop the water and hold down your bead, and then you do each shingle. That's how we do a valley. So we're gonna cut, figure we need 2 foot, 3 foot. So we're gonna cut like this. So we get up inside that valley, so the water's covered. You wanna make sure to put holes here. This 6 valve in the shingle, but you don't wanna get it inside this valley. Even if we're covered, just so get down on the bottom. Yeah, over there, because the other one's That one's done. That's our last one. This one will have to get fast. Yep. We're gonna start again. We're gonna start with this one. And now we always use orange because it's waterproof. It'll come right off. See our line? So we went off this one. See it?
Yeah.
So you're gonna go right to that. Keep going. Right there. Yep. Now hold it there. Come right back down to here. My line's gonna be.
It should be right where they overlap, right?
Yep. Right where they cut is where we should be. Ready? Yes. Using our hook blade. If you're cutting off your left side, you want to cut from the top to the bottom of your shingle. That leaves you without a dog ear. So you'll come up like this. Now the fats, you want to make sure your hook blade's in there so you don't cut through. And the key is, a lot of people don't like, is you want to cut fast. And that's how you keep it straight, but you have to stay off that. So what I'll do sometimes is I'll put this underneath it. And then you have a protection. I mean, that's what I would have you guys do. Because then you always have a protection. And then you're cutting onto a shingle, you can do your speed. Because when you cut faster, it actually goes straight, believe it or not. So you make sure so you don't miss. And then you grab it, and you kind of just like jigsaw it. And you want to make sure it lines up with your other cut. Okay? So go like this. Just down. And it's way better to protect your stuff than it is to get through it fast. Because if you put a line through that, if you cut through that roof, now you're leaking. Even though we have 10,000 rows under there, vice water shield. Oh, still don't want to damage. Hold on. Now we go like this. Take it like this. And lift this one. Little bit. Okay? And then when we go back to this, so what we have is we have a full bead underneath that comes all the way up. And it has to join, so no matter what, it has to be full all the way. Keep it in. Now we got the first shingle done. Now we're gonna come to the second shingle. And we're gonna take this one up. That one's good. So we're gonna take this one up. We're gonna do one right there. So on and so forth, okay? That'll be the whole way up.
Now Joe's going to explain how to properly caulk and seal a venting system.
Basically, we fold these inside so when our water hits, it runs down the tube instead of back behind. If you can see here, if it's not folded over, it'll run back behind there, and then basically it's going straight down our pipe instead of using the flashing. So this wants to be curled over. You have to make sure when you do it, it's one reason they use PVC is that you don't crack this. So you want to cut it so you can get all of it in there and have a good seal bond. So if you're over the top of the pipe, then everything's going inside there. And I'll just take my hammer and form it a little bit. So make sure we get all the way around when we do it. Now, when the water hits, it goes straight down, and that's obviously an X-take, so it goes right down their toilet, their sink, or whatever it means. And then, or wherever it goes, whatever the means is for the pipe, and then it's done. So we're not going to be touching this valley with, our valley was able to stay on this side of it, which is good because a penetration in the middle of valleys penetrations are the biggest cause of leaks. So when they're in this area, you have to follow protocol on the way you flash your shingles. Otherwise, you'll end up with a leak. So I'm just going to show you, just where you do a nice bead, make sure everything's clean. So you get a nice bead down, and it has to stay consistent. This is double flash, so underneath this flashing here is also tar, which we put down. We nail it, and then we tar it again. So if by chance it were to come through the shingles, we still have layers. So what I like to do is I take a nice bead and I'll walk it around right inside there. And when you cut your shingles close, it helps to get that bead looking nice. And you guys are ultimate roofing and windows, doors, so you know how important a bead is. So I'll go ahead and take that off. Keep it from getting on your fingers. Use a little bit of water, and then I just like to make it so there's no, that you can't see any bulge, so you know it's consistent and the water can't get in there. And then also you keep your clean look. Not that anybody can ever see what your roof looks like up here, but if you love what you do, it's important to keep it nice. Now we have a leak-proof pipe. Our lead goes down inside, so we're utilizing the hole, the flashing itself. Water comes down, follows down through, or it falls out, comes into here. We have a nice bead with a triple flashing system. She's good to go. On the rake edges here, one thing I do is our normal nailing pattern, we come across with our nails, and it's 6 nails, so I put 5 there, and then I always hit one up here. The reason I hit one up there is if you don't, it gives a spot for the wind to come in. So then we just got the extra protection. Instead of using a chalk line down here, we cut straight to the rake. So what I do to get my rake, I come under like this and I hook my blade, that way I'm nice and straight, and then I just cut down like that. If you keep it away a little bit, you don't scratch none of your edging up, but this gives you a perfect cut down your rake edge. And then you also have this so the wind can't get in there. Always in the flash. I learned from an inspector once when I was doing a project, and he'd come up and check my roofs, and if they weren't within an inch from the edge, he went past me on the right side. So that's how I kind of developed my nailing pattern. I would set that one first, and then I'd go ahead and nail.
Alright, that way you're always the next to the edge.
No matter what. And to utilize the scraps, if you're using a straight cut, you can always reuse these ones, which is nice. As long as we're 6 inches, we make the code on our edging. And if they're like this, if you use that edge, you basically got a factory cut because your metal's going to be straight.
I'm here today with Joe, and he's going to explain to us how to properly install ridge ventilation and caps for your roofing system.
This is just a precautionary I do on my caps, even though on the old caps they used to have the tar on this part of it, and they don't on here. It's sealed on there, which is fine for any shingle, every other piece. But when we get on our edge here, not having that line allows this to lift up. So what I'll do on my first one is I'll tar the bottom of it, and I'll usually just do it on the roof So I'll find out about where it is on each side, and then I'll just tar this, and that'll keep my first ridge cap adhered. Okay, so I want to even that out. Grab a nailer, KJ. A lot of things that I've realized is you go around a house that just got done, maybe their gun ain't set right, and you'll look up and there'll be a cap missing somewhere. Most of the time when they do that, they only put one nail in each cap on each side like they would a shingle. I always double nail mine, so I'll hit my line and out. So I'll start 2 of them this way. Now, we want to keep them straight, so what I'll do is I'll put 2 to start down there, and I'll just bump down here, bump through the end. And this one I won't nail because I want to get rid of at least as many holes as I can. So we'll go ahead, KJ, we'll grab a chalk line, and we're going to chalk on the line. I'm right-handed, so I'll chalk on the left side. So you're going to go all the way down to the end down there, and you're going to chalk on that offset. Yep. All the way down to the end, all the way down to the end, so we get, yep. Then we're just going to even these out about right. And we'll chalk past. Once again, we're using our orange chalk. The shingles are angled, so we don't want to follow this. This is supposed to hide, again, kind of like our dog ears back there on our valleys, so nothing catches them.
We're installing the ridge cap steel ridge GAF shingles on the roof system. Rich, tell us a little bit about that.
Again, we're back to using an orange line, so that fades off as soon as it gets in. You also notice that he's using 2 nails on each side of the ridge cap. That's HVHZ requirement to make sure in a high wind. Again, it puts the double amount of the shingles that most other manufacturers are using.
Now I see on some roofs that you'll see this part of the roof a little discolored. It doesn't look like the rest of the roof. Why does that happen?
Well, what will happen is this is a sealer ridge system, and the GAF system for the Golden Pledge has the accessories used. So what some roofers will do is save a couple dollars, they'll use 3-tab shingles in a similar color and cut them just like these, and they'll look similar, but like we was talking about, the shingle isn't cut back, so the water will catch it, but also it voids the warranty on their shingle because on the whole roof because it's not the proper system. So the roof isn't built with the same stuff it should be built.
Oh wow, so all they have to do is use a different type of system for this ridge cap and it would completely void the warranty.
Completely void the whole roof warranty. Everything that's been done would be void.
Wow, so if you see a roof with any different color of shingles, you can kind of say that they don't have a warranty on their roof,
Right.
correct?
You'll see the color kind of goes the same, it matches the shingles, it's not a solid color. Generally, if it's a very solid color ridge cap, that's what happens.
One of the last steps in our installation process is to vent the roof. We're going to be using the GAF Cobra ventilation system, is that correct?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's a mesh, as you can see real close. It's a mesh. There's other kinds that are made. They're plastic. They stand up a little off the roof. They're also made by GAF. This is just our preferred type that we use. They're fastened down. They come with 1 3/4 inch nails, and we use these 1 3/4 inch nails instead of the regular 1 1/4 inch nails. This step is very important because sometimes people just keep using the nails that are in their gun and they're 1/2 inch shorter. And the idea of these nails is they're long enough to penetrate the roof deck. So if they're not able to go through the deck and have some of the nail hanging out on the other side, they're just not as effective as they could be.
And this ventilation is going to help reduce any heat and moisture buildup in the attic.
Correct. 2 things we're taking into consideration when we put an exhaust vent on is we have to look at the side, the amount of venting we have on the eaves, because you don't want to have more ventilation on the roof than you have in the soffits. It creates an unbalanced system. So we're taking into consideration how much soffit vent we have, and we're determining with that how much exhaust vent we're going to put on the roof.
Now you also have other forms of ventilation. Why is this the best ventilation system for a roof?
Well, we like it because it's a closed system. So if one of the plastic ends, the ones that sit up high, if it gets busted, water can get in there. With this mesh, it just stops anything from getting through. Not just at the front, but as you keep going through it, there's always something there.
Why is this system better than using goosenecks?
Well, we like it because it's part of the system. So it's part of the warranty. So if we use a gooseneck, it's not part of the warranty, and those are susceptible to being hit by objects flying in a storm, any major windstorm. If they get hit, and we've seen them where they hit, and they just open right up, and now you have a roof hole, and it's just nothing you can do about it.
That's why we prefer to use the GAF insulation system on all of our roofs.
Correct. It maintains the integrity of the warranty and everything going on around it.
When I get up right from the top, we're going to be cutting a ridge vent here. And our ridge vent code is about 1.5 inches on each side. We don't want to have to pull nails and go over nails, so we'll just nail a little low here. And our ridge vent's going to cover it anyway. There will be another row going on this side. The only reason I don't do it is so I can get a nice clean cut on my ridge vent, and then I'll go and throw in that back row, and then I'll have a nice ridge vent. We never ridge vent soffits, so anytime we're doing our ridge vent, we can't cut out to the soffit because that's not going to help no venting. So on these last ones, it's okay to go ahead and wrap them over, and usually you'll have an idea of how much ridge vent you're doing. And when I get to that, I'll show you how we secure that in. Now this will be a no-no against the edge, so we just cut back, make sure we have our 6 inches. So we're always got enough to make two. This one I'll cut right off so I can see. Go ahead. Okay, then we'll cut all these back. Cut them right to that white line, all the way, and then just stack them. You start down there, your right hand, and start down there, and you can just run down the whole thing. We'll cut them off. And then we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So we're going to have a total 43 feet. We're going to want to put 20 in the middle. I just like to center it out, so this house calls for 20 feet of ventilation. We took a roof measurement on a total length of 43.5. So we centered out at 21.5. Our ridge vent's 20 feet. So we're going to come out 10 feet on each side, so it gives us the center of our roof. Just a little more appealing. Like I said, it doesn't matter for the venting purposes. So this is going to be our ventilation there. Code calls for 1.5 inches exposed on each side. So what we're going to do is we'll cut out right here, as you can see on the tape. I cut down about 2 inches. So literally our code will be about right there from the peak that we need to cut down to expose. So we'll come down another 1.5 inches on this side. This will be our cutout. Okay, so come down 1.5 inches on this one. Gonna hit that. And then you see my marks over there, right? Okay, them are the marks we're gonna follow. Okay, so let me see. Looks like we're peak a little bit. I want you to come down 1/4 inch towards the shingles. A little more. There you go. Sometimes the plywood on the peak is not perfectly straight. Twice each side. So we want to make sure we get that proper ventilation. Now anything in our way here, we usually cut out because we don't want to mess up our saw blade. So we're going to cut the ice and water, the peeling stick, and the felt down to whatever our deck boards are, plywood or slat boards, however it may be ran. We're going to cut that out to expose our wood. That'll make sure we have a proper cut. Take our peeling stick off first. If you get it deep enough, Tyler, you can do your felt at the same time. Okay, so see how our peaks at? So we're gonna have to cut a little bit more on this side because we gotta expose this side. We're basically gonna cut right down to our shingle. We need to be 1.5 inches. Now that we have our wood exposed, we can go ahead and check. Make sure we got a good 1.5 inches. 3 inches is what's called for. So if we start on the peak, see there we got 3 inches. The biggest important thing about cutting in ridge vent is to not damage the integrity of the house, which are our roof purlins. So the reason we expose it, not just cut through crazy, is so we can get a proper depth on our saw. So here we get the proper depth, tighten her down. That way when we go through our trusses, we don't hit them. The nice thing about these saws is if you open up your blade and set it down like that, your gauge is 1.5 inches. So as long as your peak's cut good, you can go ahead and follow your gauge, which eliminates having to have a chalk line on the wood. Now we're gonna hit some nails here. Sometimes you can pull these. I like to have a saw just dedicated to my ridge vent, and that's it. We'll go ahead and start making this cut. When we're sitting on our platform of shingles and our 3 layers you can see of underlayment, it's gonna adjust our depth a little bit. So what we're gonna do on this side is we're gonna go ahead and drop her just a little bit, which would be equal to that plus 1/2 inch. We're gonna come up, drop that, and then our extra. Go ahead and restart our cut. As soon as we get to our truss, we're gonna check to make sure we're not too deep. Oh, perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and make our cut the rest of the way. Cut. Usually just grab right by the trusses here. Just go ahead and pull them right up. Try to keep it as clean as you can just so it ain't so much throwing wood on top of your shingles. Just to be sure, check our other side. Repeat. Some of you might wonder why we're cutting the venting up here instead of standard roof vents as you see over those. Now, they update the code more and more for the shingle efficiency. And what the ridge vent allows you to do, code is usually venting every 300 square feet of the house. So what we do is cutting this in, it gives you this continuous vent all the way through instead of just a couple box that might not hit that hip where a knee wall is or something like that. Now our soffits that's installed underneath the house are vented as well. So what happens is that wind comes in, it comes through them soffit vents and it blows up through the attic. That'll help with your heating and cooling. It'll also help with the lifetime of the shingles, because what happens is if that hot air has nowhere to go, it heats up the roof. So with this venting system, they've allowed to be able to people have darker colors such as pewter gray or onyx black and stuff like that while still preserving the roof. Because usually when the sun hit them roofs back in the day when they had 3 tabs or still just box vents, it would boil the shingles more and they would curl up, which would make the granules come off. And actually the granules are a layer of the shingle for the protection. So this vent, when they started coming up with this ridge vent, it was really neat. Also another reason is all the penetrations you see in the roof are the most common causes of a leak. So compared to this house to that house has 2 extra penetration points in its roof that are possible to leak, which means mortar, another hole. This is all covered with the system that we'll show you, but this ridge vent is really nice because it's continuous. Not all of it's just rushing to one vent to get out. It's got a continuous all the way through. Now, even though our house call is only for 20 feet, we ridge cap the whole thing to protect our roof. So what we'll do is we'll start from one side here, and we'll do like we did earlier, and we'll chalk the line. Our biggest storms always come on the east and the south. So what we want to do is to keep our shingles from having the most action to come off. We want to start from where the wind wind is the least. So we'll set a couple of these on there. Again, we'll use tar. So we'll do the same thing we did over here on the other side over there. This gives it an extra protection. Like I said, the new ridge caps that they've made are 10 times better than they used to make them, but they don't have the sealer on the bottom. So even though each one of our ridge caps will seal to the other one, how do we seal in the first one? So what I do is I'll put some bowline. That'll give that first one a good seal. And you just want to center that out. And we'll go code. We need 2 nails. As you can see, our nails that we put up here for our shingles, we're gonna have cap all the way back to there on both sides. So it's gonna be covering our nails, which will give us our weatherproof. About 2 inches away, and our cap's gonna come down a good 3 inches past it on each way. So no matter what, when we get across this, we're gonna have all our nails covered. So none of this top really is exposed. And I'll show you the ridge vent as we put it on. Right now we're gonna finish out these and get it underneath here, and I'll show you what. I'm coming off my line a little bit because our peak is a little off. In some spots you can't really tell because sometimes the trusses will be cut off. So we're still keeping it straight, and the good part about that chalk line is a little bit of water will take it off. But the most important part is that we split the difference on the peak. Alright, so now we're coming up to where we cut out our ridge vent here. Now that's the only spot that's going to be vented, so what we want to do is we want to get a couple past it. So that'll give us our waterproofing. So as you can see here, that's where it ends. We're going to be about 6 inches, which is a typical hook blade, past our ridge vent. We're going to go one under like this. And we're going to go 2 under like this. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing from this side over here. But we're going to put our cap on first. Usually you have the roll, and when it's rolled up like that, it's been sitting. Most people, they want to just roll it out. I like to take it this way, so it kind of contours to the roof, and I'll take it and I'll roll it out that way. We're going to pull that out all the way. And as you can see with our measurements, I'll come this way a little bit, KJ. Okay. We're going to go underneath that with shingles. So as you can see with our, when we prep that little bit, just like cooking dinner, if you have all your seasonings out, it's going to end up right. What this is going to do is it's a mesh design, so it's allowed to vent everywhere. So we're going to pull this right past that tar line. What that tar line will do is once that heats up, it's going to help hold this down. So we're going to split the difference on this. We're going to shoot 1 nail in, and then we're going to even it out. So we want to be close to about halfway on each side. And we're going to hit just this side first. Now with the ridge vent itself, with the mesh design, our 1¼ inch nails are still good to use. And I like to put a bunch in so it gets a nice flat concrete. About every 4 inches. Our ridge cap is going to cover too. Now we're going to leave this side up because we want to be able to get our cap underneath there for other ones. So we're going to grab 2 cap here, same way we did over there. We want to stay about 6 inches in like we did on that other one. So we're going to put them in there, and we're going to put this one in here. We'll go ahead and we'll hit these. Now that we have that set, where that's going to go, we'll go grab the file. We're going to get this square out in the middle. Now got that side's done, we can give her a nice tug and make sure this side works. Now with the depth of our half-inch plywood, our shingles, and our 3 layers of underlayment, an 1¼ inch nail will no longer get through our cap and into the decking with a good hold. So we're going to switch them out. In the Cobra ridge vent, they come with a standard 1¾ inch nail, which is nice, so you don't have to buy extras, which allows you to adhere the ridge cap into the decking, so once again it doesn't blow off. So we're going to set our nail. Now as you can see, as I put my first piece on here, we're going to put a little bit of tar the same way we would over there, just to hold this first one in. So we'll go ahead and we'll tar this. And this is just so wind can't catch that last ridge cap and go pull it off. Because one starts going, it's like a domino effect. Now we'll go ahead. We'll make sure, usually your Cobra will come out about 1/4 inch past your ridge vent. And then you also got about another 1/8 or more of your regular shingle showing. So I'll run that just about the same over, about 1/8 inch. And now we'll go ahead, and our 1¾ inch, as you can see how it dimples down a little bit, we're good into that decking. So now we'll put this on the same way we would a regular cap. And the benefit of using them extra nails and doing the 4 inches is you get a nice low profile with your ridge vent instead of a big bulky vent. So basically what you're doing is you're creating a sleek design so the wind can't get up and catch it, and also you're venting your house at the same time. So I like to use a couple more nails without damaging the integrity of the cap. Now if I end up blowing through like that, which does happen, what I'll do is I'll come up with my first one and then I'll put one back farther so we still have our 2. If you're going through a little bit too much, you can either set the depth on your gun or your compressor, because the last thing you want is a blow through, because then you're not holding your nails. This stuff's completely different than going in the field. These areas with any penetration or anything where the elements are first exposed to, there's no need to rush it, because this is going to be the first thing you're going to come back and fix if you do. And one thing I don't do is come back and fix something. Do it right the first time, right, KJ? Yep. So when we get to the edge here, we're going to do the same thing with our bowl, because it's the only thing that will be exposed. So what we'll do is do one more here. That's a little far out compared to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this at about 1/4 inch over. Since this one will be way over, I'm going to go ahead and cut this right at right here, because we're going to end up putting tar down anyway, so we don't need that strip. Now on these two, I'll just adjust that just to make it look a little better. And there we go. So we'll take our tar. Last thing we want is too many nails exposed on our roof. So this one does call for nails on the edge. I'll hit it like this with 1, 2, 3, 4. Since that one doesn't have a full nail bed,
like
I'm
literally
going to go ahead and put one more right next to it,
side.
just so we have good holding power. I'm not going to oversint these. So for this, basically the only caulk, just like we did around the tubes, I'll just let it down a little bit so it don't stick to you, and I'll just go right over these. And I don't like to just glob it, because I think it looks horrible and you don't get a good uniform. So I'll just go ahead and kind of like rub it out just so it leaves a nice, and nothing can get underneath it. And stuff like this you can fly through too, but I think this is one of the most important things, is just keeping your quality good, especially when you love what you do. That's our ridge vent. So the rest of it, with our regular ridge, you can pull these back out of here. And you're just gonna go ahead and start just like this and continue capping all the way to the end. When you get to the end, you're gonna have another shingle just like this cut, and you're gonna do 4 more tiny dots. And that is the ridge vent. See me getting off my line a little bit. The reason why is it's still straight off our shingles. The most important part is making sure we have an equal amount of coverage on each side of our ridge. And that chalk line can hit anything and throw itself off, but as you can still see, we're still perfectly on our shingle, so our exposure is the same. Same thing here. You're going to want to make sure that we secure the edge of our roof. We're going to go ahead and cut this right at the edge. We're going to go ahead and get our full piece again, cutting off our tar strip, but we're going to replace our tar strip with tar. So I'll go ahead and put that on. I'm pretty picky about it, so I don't like to see that, so I take a little bit more off. That makes this better. So we'll take our tar once again. Now we're secured again. Once again, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna go ahead and make sure them are in good, and then just do the same exact thing we did over there, and get a nice even amount of tar. And the reason I massage it in like this is because tar, we all know, dries, and if you don't massage it in like that, it'll dry, create holes, or just bust off. This way, it ends up being like basically one with the shingle, so no water gets under, and also so it doesn't flake up. Up to here, and we have a dormer coming in like this. We have this little area here that needs to be done as well. So what I do is I'll come up 2 or 3 shingles off this dormer, and then I'll adjust them and I'll run them all the way across. And then I'll come up and I'll under tuck each one of these shingles all the way down, so we keep our same exposure the whole way. Not that exposure is everything, but that's what they call for our warranty. So we don't have one at the bottom, a roll like this big, same thing we did in the front. So it takes a little bit of extra time, but it makes it so it's sealed up and we get the proper exposure on the shingles. I mean, there's so many different layers. You got your watershed in there. So say it comes down in this line here. Okay, now we lift up that line. That shingles goes way up under there, 12 inches. So your water hits there. When it comes under here, we have all our tar, so that's all hit. Same way this way. Everything's running downhill. I mean, you could flood test it forever. Okay? It's gonna be just like that. I'm just doing, like I said earlier, I'd like to put a full bead all the way down underneath all the shingles. And then I'm just gonna go and hit each shingle with just a little bit to help it with the wind. It doesn't call for that. I've just noticed sometimes if you get a driving wind, it can grab these if they don't seal down all the way. So I just like to put a little bit of caulk under each one of them. It's kind of just my thing, preventative. I mean, if I could say it was standard, I would say do it, but it doesn't call for it. We just like to go a little bit above and beyond because we don't like to come back. We have too many roofs to do. And once one shingle blows off, it's kind of like a domino effect, so you can keep one from coming off. It helps. And you can do this with your wet or dry caulk, as long as it's roofing tar, or your bowl. They're both going to work the same way. As long as you get a continuous bead and it doesn't break, it'll hold out. It's just easier because some guys get all the dang trowels full of stuff all the time. I can't stand it. They act like it's just another truck, but I like it. We'll go ahead and hit that one all the way down to there. And then I'll just come right back up. And this doesn't take a lot. I just hit each shingle just a little bit. And then I'll step on them as I go up. That just kind of gives them that extra seal. As you can see, that one's already working down in there. As soon as you close that, it's working. And you can take the leaf blower to this when it's done, and they won't move. And as you can see, we still have that continuous bead all the way too. Get it quick. Now at this top one, I'll come down just like this. We're gonna give a nice bead around this, continuous bead. After 12 inches, you want to be able to cover 6. So you want to make sure that this one's long, so you got an inch extra, that you're covering on each side. See what I mean? So if we weren't using that, we'd have about 6 on each side. Okay? So that's why we have to do one more up there. So you'll just run this one straight with your 6 inches off. You'll run that one like that, and then where it ends up, you'll just cut it right up this way.
Yeah, so do I tuck under here then?
Yep, that's gonna run right up underneath it. That's why we nailed these ones
High?
high. Yep, because I wanted to float that because I didn't know if they were just.
But it'll go right under there?
Yep, and then so we can get up inside there, and then next
we'll
time you put this down, this always has to be. That's why when I put my shingles on my valley, I'll nail here first and hold my hand, because we're gonna have to cut that. We got a double layer, so it's fine. But we have to cut that, otherwise that'll affect our valley. Right. So that's why when you're doing that, you always start from here and roll it up. But yeah, that's why we nail these high. So now when we go to nail, you can see there, we'll hit these, hit that, so we can get straight up in there. So that one will come right up underneath here, buddy. Okay? We know we're gonna cut it off at our white line, and you can just start it from here that way. So we're gonna cut it off at our white line, we know that, because our white line's gonna be underneath. So we'll just come up like this, water downhill, that one goes over that one. So all we're gonna do is tuck that one in up there, and when you have your ridge is gonna go up underneath this, so you only got a nail out to here, because we don't want nails right out. So you'll go ahead and hit this one, and then keep going. Once we get this side in, then and our ridge in, then we'll nail off this, okay? So just continue that one over there. And don't cut your factory. So you're gonna go that one, and then you're gonna go that one, and then just leave that step that big, okay? And just fill that one in when you're done. So go ahead and finish that up, and then put these on, okay? And you're gonna want to keep your nails straight up. Don't nail past you, okay? Now on this one, I'll line mine up so I know where my cut's gonna be, because otherwise you'll damage the shingle. So we're gonna be right about there. Now this will show right there's the top of my cut. So I'm gonna make a mark there. And then I'm gonna look over here. That'll be my edge. So I'm gonna make a mark here. That's gonna come up. we'll just cut our 6 off that side. We gotta get one more under there. So now we'll flip this one. We're gonna want to be right up there. Here. That way we have our factory to where we're putting it. This one there. We got our 6. Get this nice down in there. That's gonna come up. We're gonna have a little bit of metal showing. We're gonna paint that. Now this one we want to come all the way up to the side there. And now look what we're looking at. We're looking at a bunch of metal, right? So we don't want a bunch of metal. So what we're gonna do, that's about where we're gonna come in. So like that other side, in this situation, we want to weave our first shingle. So what we're gonna do, we see about where we want to come down to. We're gonna come down to this, cheat a little bit, because we want, the biggest thing is we want to kick the water away from this penetration point. So we're gonna come to about here, put this in. So now, we're gonna go ahead and run this up. Code, gotta have this passed. So, I'm gonna come up to about here. Make sure we're nice and straight. Never want to have a seam on these nails. Never a seam on the nail. Because even though that covers, when you put, say you put it on a seam, look at it. There's no way to cover that seam. Okay. So, what do you got under there? A leak. Never, ever, ever. Want to make sure that we're down. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go up to where it sits. We're gonna make a slice like this. Now what we did, we didn't go. We still have our full layer underneath there. So this was our extra layer. That's the only reason we're able to cut that. But if we don't cut it, we will mess up our valley and not have good adhesion. So what I'll do is I'll come up like this. Now, that's why we nailed these high, so we can get underneath there. We'll go underneath this, even though we have that level. We'll go underneath that cut. That's there. So take off 6. So we're up far enough. Got about 6 there. Go ahead. Adhere that down. So our water, we're still up underneath there. Our water hits that, still gone. Go in here, go hit that. We're just gonna place this one so we know about where we want to cut. And now that we're up to that, we want to take it, find out where our level is. Cut that up past this. Up there. Cut it off. Because once we put our other ridge in there, we don't want it too bulky, you know what I'm saying? So we cover up the piece we just cut. Right on our double. For the sake of protection, we're just going to run this one right along our edge. We're not losing any integrity. Anything, we're just going to but twice the protection. So now that we got that in there, take this one here, that'll lay flat. Instead of starting down at the bottom, where most would, I start up top. So now what we do, we'll follow this shingle across through, and we left these nailed in the top so we can get these under there. So we still continue our step. Now, if we nailed this one, we wouldn't be able to slide one under. So basically what you're doing is you're nailing the one ahead of it. And once we get over here, you'll see that when we nail this one, it nails, if you want to look under here, it nails the middle of this one and the top of that one like every other shingle. So basically what we're doing, we're just back down nailing. So now this one will come in. We want to get across our valley so we can cut it. Alright, we need a chalk line, buddy. know, all of our shingles are exactly the same width, same exposure the whole way, and we don't disrupt any of the shingles whatsoever. And we don't have to guess where to end up down here. So when we're done here, you can look. Basically, mathematically, we have exactly the same amount of tin sticking out on both sides. We're up and under everything all the way through. So there, no matter what, no water's getting in there. GAF actually calls for 4, but they do a stepping pattern where they do 2 and 3 and 4. So the minimum, what they do is a standard at 6. Gonna keep the best at. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. We already have that caulk. So now what I want you to do is, you don't really have a solid line on there. Always make sure you got 20 set. Yeah, you don't ever go this fast. When you get this fast, then I don't have to do it ever again. We always want to make sure, depending on the pitch of the roof, that one was a little more shallow. We always want to make sure that sits right. Sometimes we have to cut it. This one's gonna, I think we should make it. You see how that's bubbling? We don't want that. So what we do is we'll come up underneath here, take that out of there a little bit. When you get into these valley spots, I'd rather you not hold your trigger and shoot your nailer. Place your nailer and then okay. So you see how that one's so bulked up? That shingle. We don't want that. So what we're gonna do, and like that, we're gonna cut that. So it goes like this. So we're gonna cut like this. So what happens is it bubbles up, and we want to keep the wind away from it the best we can, because if the wind's able to get in there, then it'll pull it off. So we'll cut this out like this, and we'll go under here. And we'll nail this one. Now to get that to sit, we have to hold that. So we'll nail this one. So we'll take some of it out of there. Now I want to keep it so it looks right. So we'll take that off. Right about to there. Sometimes you don't have a choice where the placement is. It just depends how the dormer comes into the roof. That'll seal down. Make sure it seals down. What do we use? And even though we made that cut in there, we're still above it with our other shingle, so we won't have no problems when it comes to waterproofing. So one thing I like to do with our drip edges, when we get these old homes, you don't always have everything perfectly straight when it comes to the fascia. So what I'll do with my drip is I'll tack one nail there and I'll float it. You never want to float it forward, so if there's something where it needs to be corrected, then that's something that would go, be addressed to the homeowner as to maybe replacing the board or whatnot. But I like to float my drip edge because you start from the bottom, so if your drip edge is straight and you use your nailing lines, the roof's going to stay straight. If you look down this row here, you can see that drip edge is floated out, and so it's perfectly straight all the way down. I do a huge portfolio from start to finish of all my jobs. One thing we do here, we always do our nailing patterns on we redeck everything as part of our package. So we always redeck 4 inches on the seams, 6 in the field everywhere. I really love what I do, so I just like to take pictures of everything and show the straight rows. Gives the guys something to keep progressing at, and it looks really good in a portfolio. And sometimes we'll come in and do a job when a homeowner isn't home, and when we do the portfolio and show the different steps we do through the whole way, it kind of gives the homeowner like a sense of being part of the project, being there. It's also good for their equity and their resale value, especially for like anyone if they're coming to buy. Well, yeah, what did you do in the ridge fan? I heard there was supposed to be 3 inches cut. Is that done? Actually, it is. Scroll through a little Google link of the photo of this job, show them that we measured it out, and everything's to code. So it also gives us our guarantee on our warranty and just shows our craftsmanship. So I just like to do it in the end.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get our latest videos, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Paradise Exteriors here. Thank you. Have a paradise day.